Welcome everybody. Hope we're all okay. Sorry for the slight delay in coming to you today. We're just having a few problems out there with people's internet. But we've got everybody with us now, so we're ready to go. First things first, as always, thank you to Simply Video because they're the ones who have been in the background helping Ronnie to get online with us today. Also, thank you to Tony Cuthbertson at IMP Media for the sponsor for today as well. As always, we're trying to raise as much money as we can for the NHS. So, you know, Hurd had a bit of a go at me yesterday saying 20p, but, you know, 20 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever you've got, throw it in there. You know, get onto the SGH Sport and Events page. You can find a link on there and you can donate still to the NHS. You know, we're still not out of this pandemic, which we're in, and they need all the help we can get, and everybody's doing a great job out there. So any penny we can raise for them is fantastic. I know we've raised a good amount so far. As always, you know, our guests which are here, we've got Lynn in the nice sun over in Hull. Lynn, how's things?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah, got the sun here. It's all coming over here.
Absolutely, it's coming over your way. I think we get it a little bit later, mate. It's beautiful over here as well, which is you know, we can see you've got your cup of tea ready. Seen your missus bring the tea out for you and looking after you. You know, you're getting looked after over there, mate.
All right here at the minute, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've got Howard Clark as well. Clarky, how's things with you? Are you in the East Wing, South Wing? But you know, we keep changing wings every day. So you know, where are you today?
Yeah, I'm more central midfield today because of Ronnie Whelan's coming on today. So I'm playing in midfield today, and thankfully I've got the house to myself apart from my dog. Yeah, I've furloughed the staff. You know, eventually I have to
Absolutely. Fantastic. And Hurd, how's things with you? I know you've been playing tennis this morning.
Yeah, just UGP, as we all know, Phil Kane, my next door neighbour, whooped him 6-3, 6-love, and he went back with his tail between his legs. Andre Agassi, have it?
Perfect, mate. We always like it when Kane gets beat. And to our guest today, our main guest, you know, absolute legend of the footballing world and Liverpool in particular, Ronnie Whelan. Ronnie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks very much.
Perfect. Did you get yourself sorted eventually? Did the lads help you out getting you online?
It took a while, to be fair. I'm not very savvy on these things, but we got there in the end.
No worries, mate. Look, we're here to talk about your career. We're here to talk about, you know, and what a career you've had. You know, amazing. I've been looking at things today and, you know, 6 league titles, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, 2 European Cups. It just goes on. And Republic of Ireland and so on. So what we do with this, Ronnie, we're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk how, you know, some teams which you played with and some players you played with. But also we like to start from the very beginning. You know, you're an Irish boy. You grew up in Home Farm, which is or played for Home Farm in 77, 79, and it's a hotbed of footballers come from Home Farm. You know, how did your playing career come about, and how did it start at Home Farm for you?
It all started with my dad, basically. He was a very, very good League of Ireland player. He also got a couple of caps for the Republic of Ireland back in the 60s. So I was brought up going to watch him play week in, week out. Back in the bus, going to the matches, listening to the things that were going on. You know, when you're 6, 7 years of age, these things stick in your mind. And from that sort of age, I was always wanting to go and play professional football in England. I go back to the times of Sports Night with Coleman, when the Wednesday night and European Cup games were on. It's floodlights, foggy. These were the things I wanted as a kid to go on and do. My dad took me to Home Farm when I was 6. As you said, there's a lot of players come out of Home Farm. And I loved every minute of just playing football. He never really... He seen I was enthusiastic about the whole thing, so he let me get on with it. He never had to push me to get out in the garden and practice. We didn't have computers back then, obviously, so the thing was a ball, and that's all I ever did. I was out in the garden with the ball most days. And then as I progressed more into up higher with Home Farm, I got in the first team when I was 16 at Home Farm playing League of Ireland. And then a couple of teams started coming in. I was, probably I should have been at Man United. I was off an apprenticeship at Man United when I was 15. But my dad said, you've got to finish school. I never forgave him for that until I signed for Liverpool. So I was a Man U fan as a kid. I always wanted to go there. I remember meeting some of the players when I was 6 or 7 years of age. They played a testimonial game in Dublin in a stadium called Dalymount Park. And I was brought there with my dad, and I met the likes of Best Law Child, which was great for me. And it was my ambition to play for Man United. I played a couple of A-team games with Man United when I was 15, when I was over on trials, but eventually Liverpool came in to sign pro.
And going into Liverpool, obviously, we know your career at Liverpool was, as I've just said, was an amazing. Was it a hard choice for you to go to Liverpool at that point? Because obviously, you just said there, you're a Man United fan. Liverpool, Man United, a bit of a rivalry. I think that, from there as well. Obviously, the rivalry is even more now. But was it a hard decision to go to Liverpool at that point? I can't see it would be with the team which you had there.
Yeah, no, it wasn't difficult whatsoever. I went when I was 18, just more or less signed on my 18th birthday, so signed pro forms, but it wasn't a bind, it wasn't a struggle whatsoever. My only worry was that I'd never get a game. They had such a good squad of players, such great players at the time. I never thought I'd get in the first team. Well, after 18 months, I was sitting in the dressing room with the likes of Ray Clemens, Kenny Dalglish, Graham Souness, Alan Hansen, Phil Neal, these great players that had won so many trophies, so many tournaments. It was daunting at the start. I came into the team, me and Ian Rush, more or less the same time, got into the first team. So we were the babies in the team, the ones that took most of the stick, most of the flack. Although Rushy was a bit thicker than me, so he got most of it.
We won't say anything about that one. Going into that Liverpool dressing room, the first time you going into the dressing room, did anybody take you under your wing, or did you go in? Were you quite a quiet chap when you went in at that point? How was that first day walking into Liverpool and walking into the famous Anfield and the changing room itself?
When you went to Liverpool, we used to change at Anfield in the morning and then get a bus down to the training ground, which was Melwood, which took about 15 minutes. The first team had the home team dressing room. They got changed in there. The second team and the apprentices all went into the away team dressing room. And that is where I started. But I was lucky enough to have 3 Irish lads in there who I knew from playing with Home Farm, and one of them I went to school with. Eventually, they didn't make it, unfortunately for them. They went back and played good careers, League of Ireland. But it was made a lot easier for me that I could go into that dressing room, sit between them, and then just get to know what was going on around me. As you progressed, you started to train more with the first team. So I'd still be in the away team dressing room, but training with the first team. So I got to know them a bit more that way rather than be sitting with them every day. So it was made a little bit easier for me because the Irish lads were there. So it wasn't so difficult to then go into the home team dressing room, whereas Ronnie Moran used to call them, all the big heads were in there.
And we've got to talk about, I think, possibly the best manager, one of the best managers, certainly Bob Paisley, who brought you, certainly brought you across, and you made your debut under in that sense as well. What, just for people who are watching this, what kind of man was he?
He was a good fella, but I don't know how we won anything with Bob because we didn't have a clue what he honestly, everything was yes and him and yes, and then you'd walk away and go, I haven't got a clue what you said, boss. But he used to call everybody Dougie because he wasn't very good with names, so everybody became Dougie, and he was like, yeah, Dougie Doons, and you really didn't have a clue who you were picking up from corners or things like that because everybody was Dougie. But he got his point across. He was very good at building teams. When I came into the team, I was coming into a team that had won the European Cup in 77, 78, 81, 79, I think, maybe. But I'm then, this team is breaking up. This is such a big, successful team. It was time for Bob to make changes, and he made them pretty quickly. The likes of Jimmy Case, Ray Kennedy, David Johnson. These were all going out of the team. Great players at Liverpool. And the younger ones like myself and Rushy and Craig Johnson and Steve Nicol and them were being brought in. So he was very, very good when it needed to change a team. And I think Kenny Dalglish learned a lot from Bob because of that. They knew how to build great teams. Didn't always put the best player in the position, but they could build a team. And that was Bob's forte. He was very, very knowledgeable that way.
So who was the driving force really then behind him? Was it, Joe Fagan? Was that the person who kind of did all the work behind it?
But behind him, you had Roy Evans, reserve team manager, and then you had Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran. They were the two sergeant majors. More so Ronnie Moran shouting and screaming every day at training. When Joe started shouting, we knew something was wrong. You know, he could tell you by speaking to you nice and easy, but if something was wrong, then Joe started shouting, and we all sort of took a step back, buckled down to what we had to do. So it was Joe and Ronnie with the driving force behind Bob. But like Bob was, along with Joe Fagan, they were the driving force as well, with Shankly at that time. So they knew the ins and outs of the whole thing. So they were the ones who pushed us day in, day out, Joe and Ronnie.
And was that the famous kind of thing about the boot room? You know, because there's obviously lots of stories about the boot room, and people who have not been around Liverpool wouldn't know what that really kind of entails, I suppose. Was it the boot room where the players went, or was it the boot room where the management went and sat and talked? Talk us a little bit about your recollection of the boot room.
It was a very, very tiny room, not even as big as a small bedroom. But it's where all the kit went in. All the boxes of kit was in there. There was a boots on the walls. There was polish in there. Just outside, actually, a smaller room where the boots were polished. You walk into the boot room. There was a little table, 2 little seats on the side. I think they used that mainly because they could get get opposition managers into that little boot room after the game, and they could learn things off them. I think that's where they used it most. There was a lot of socialising went on in there for them. Players were not really allowed in there. And they always felt they got something, some little snippet they would try to get from an opposing manager, whether it's the best left back. Who's the best left back around, they'd ask, and then they'd come up. These would be telling them little things, and they worked off that and then went out and looked at this left back themselves. Or they was in there for information for them. They just like people to relax in there, a few whiskies, and then they start talking.
Fantastic. And looking at, we'll go to the, the first of the European Cups for yourself, which was 83, 84. Were you involved with the 81, 81, Cup final there?
I was doing a book a while back, and I wondered why I wasn't in the squad for the 81 European Cup final. And I was always going on, why was I not in the squad? Why was I not in the squad? But then I was thinking to myself, you were too young to be in the squad. You were 20 at the time. You weren't really in the first team. But I look back on it, and I'd been substitute in the last 4 games, I think, of the season. So there was 5 subs in Europe. Yeah. So I thought I must have been going to be one of the subs, along with Rushy. Kevin Sheedy, even, who went to Everton, he was in the squad at the time. But none of us were in. There must have been a lot of injuries, actually, because if I was being sub and none of the big heads, so to say, were being the sub. So, it was 84 Cup final I came into, yeah.
So the 83-84, you won the league as well that year. The team, as you've just said earlier on, it just rolls off the tongue, really, that Liverpool team. What's the recollection from that season for you? What was your highlight? Obviously, the winning of things, but what was the turning point in that season where you thought, do you know what, we've got a chance of winning 2 massive trophies here?
I think that the turning point was that the young lads that had come into the team when all the European Cup winners were leaving, was that we became aware of how to play European football. We'd got knocked out 2 previous years fairly early on, quarter-final. I think we were knocked out by a Polish team and a Bulgarian team, I think. But then we started to learn how to do what all the Liverpool teams had done, going away to very, very hostile places and shutting the crowd up, getting a result, getting them back to Anfield, winning there, and then progressing. So we learned how to play European football, and it took us all the way to the final. We went to the final next year in 85. Unfortunately, it was an ISIL disaster, but we were learning to play European football, and that's what stuck in my mind from that whole season.
And you look at that season itself, or certainly the final of the European Cup there, playing against Roma in Rome as well, I believe, as that's got to be a tough night going into a hostile environment, because there were hostile environments in them days as well. What's your recollection of the final? My recollection is obviously the penalties. What's your thought on that night?
We were never expected to win. Roma in the Olympic Stadium in Rome was not a place you went and easily won football matches. But when, as I said, I mentioned the names, Souness, Dalglish, Hansen, Phil Neal, these players, wherever you played, you had a chance with these players, and they were not faced by any of it. They'd been through it all. And they were trying to drag the young lads through, myself, Sammy Lee, Craig Johnson, Rushy. Very, very hostile, extremely hostile. But we tried We're in the tunnel before the game, and the Roma players are leaving us in the tunnel for a long, long time. And something came through from the back where the subs were. A lad called David Hodgson, Middlesbrough lad. He started humming a tune, which is a Chris Rea song, which was I don't know what I love. I don't know what it is, but I love it. I don't know what it is, but I want it to stay. And it sort of went down the line through Craig Johnson, the next Middlesbrough also. And then all the squad, all the Liverpool squad, were in the tunnel when the Roma players walked out, and we were all singing this, I don't know what it is, but I love it. I don't know what it is, but I want it to stay. And I don't know whether it phased the Roma players, but I think it just lifted the Liverpool players to such a degree that we could go out there and be as comfortable as possible on that pitch. And we went out and got the job done. I honestly don't think we have had the credit for that win, mainly because I think it was on penalties in the end. People forget that you went to Rome, you went into the Colosseum. That was the
yeah, absolutely.
It was the Olympic Stadium. It was difficult, but yeah, we came through it.
Came through it, and obviously, I'm guessing a good night after as well, was it?
I can't remember, to tell you the truth.
It's like you can't remember because of the drink, or can't remember because of it was.
I think there was a do already penciled in for a villa up in the mountains, looking over Rome. Yeah, it was a lot of drink. I don't think there was many of us feeling very good the next day.
So you stayed in Rome after the final as well. Then you didn't actually fly home straight away after.
We usually did. We would have the players' hotel. The wives usually came out also on a different flight. They'd be in a different hotel. I roomed with Rushy all the time. So after the game, the wives would come and stay with us. There'd be extra rooms put on, so we'd all change. So I had to change rooms usually because Rushy's clothes were hung up all over the bedroom. So I'd let him and his wife go in there. My missus didn't want to go into that mess.
No, I roomed with Rushy a couple of times when he was at Leeds, and I think he was still doing that in the late 90s as well. So he doesn't change on that one. Obviously, winning the league as well. Then that's kind of the league side of things. That was the thing which amazed me. 81, 82, 82, 83, 83, 84. You'd done the treble on that. Then did you understand at that point how big that was to win those three in particular on the trot? Was it something which you were conscious of when you were coming to the end of the season, or was it something which you just forgot about and just get on with the game?
We were never allowed to think about what we won at the club. I was amazed on our first when we won it in 81 that Bob Paisley come in and just put a little shoebox on the table and said, if you feel you deserve a medal, there's one in there. And you were reluctant to get up and take one, but everybody did. But that was the way it was. See you back training in July or August, whenever it was, and we'll go again and try and do the same the next year. So we've forgotten about fairly quickly.
Yeah, I suppose that's the success, isn't it? You hear Fergie saying that about Man United. It was right, that season's finished now. We've got to move on to the next one. If you look at, we go to 85, 86, which is certainly a season I remember. In that time, there was the local rivalry going on between you and Everton in particular. You won the double that year as well. What's your recollections from that year? Going forward a little bit further down your career in that sense as well. Really cementing your space in there in the team, full stop, and also becoming captain.
85, 86 was a hell of a struggle. Well, Alan Hansen's been quoted as going to Kenny Dalglish and saying this team will never win anything. But we weren't good that season. It's funny to say we didn't play well and we won the double. The first Liverpool team ever to win the double.
Yeah,
I was fortunate enough to play in sort of three very strong Liverpool teams. It was the one I came into with Souness and Dalglish and all them. The one later on, which was Barnes and Beardsley and Aldridge and all that coming into the team. But that middle one was like Jan Molby, Kev MacDonald, Craig Johnson. All these players were coming into the club new. And we did really, really struggle. I think we lost at home to Everton. And I think that was when Alan Hansen said to Kenny, we'll never win anything. But we somehow knuckled down and went on to be the only Liverpool team ever to win the double of League and FA Cup.
And look at it, Kenny obviously was player manager then as well. How did how did that go down with the lads? Was it a very smooth transition, or was it? So I think as well, if I'm right in thinking this, that he's the only player manager to win the league as well. Obviously the double, but win the league as well. How was that transition for you as players, knowing him as a centre forward and a great player, but then coming in as a manager and also playing? Was there any friction there, or was it just a very smooth operation?
No, Kenny just moaned as much as he usually did. Anyway. So that was the only change, was that when he walked into the dressing room, we all shut up talking about what happened the night before. Where he used to be involved in that, you now didn't want him to find out. So if the lads went out drinking, if he walked into the room, you did shut up, because you didn't want him to know. He was now the manager. I think it was more difficult for him because when he walked into the dressing room, he was life and soul of the party. He was taking the mickey out of everybody. Now he couldn't do this. Now he was the manager. He had to step back away from it all. So I think it was probably more difficult for Kenny. But like I say, he was still playing some of the games. If you didn't give the ball into his feet, what a nightmare. He'd just start moaning. And he wouldn't stop moaning. We had a game at Anfield once. We had a game at Anfield once, and we come in at half-time, we were losing the game. And Phil Neal said, "There's nobody shown for me." And Kenny said to him, "Where do you want me to go up to the fifth row of the main stand to get the ball?" He didn't suffer fools, Ken.
And well, we can all remember. I certainly can remember. I think the rest of the boys will remember as well. The goal down at Chelsea. To win the league in particular. You go into that time itself, and for me that was like because it was the double. Then it was on at that point. What was the celebrations after that, or was it a case of it's no celebrations? We've still got the FA Cup to go for. Or what was it like after that Chelsea game?
Yeah, there was celebrations. You know what it's like. It was footballers back then. I don't know how long we had till the next game, but we celebrated winning the league. We knew the FA Cup was coming up, but we were talked about as a big drinking team back in the 80s, along with Manchester United with your Paul McGrath, Kevin Moran, Norman Whiteside, Robbo. They were a big drinking team. We had also a reputation of being a big drinking team, but honestly, we never did it at the wrong time. If we had no midweek game, we might go for a few pints on a Wednesday night, but it wasn't a Wednesday that went into Thursday morning. Thursday was always our hardest day in training, so we'd be ready for training. We'd have a few pints, ready for training. We did drink when we were okay, allowed to, but we never took the mickey out of any managers.
No, absolutely. And then going into the cup final, Everton, local derby. They've just come second in the league as well. What do you remember of the cup final itself in 85-86?
Again, not an awful lot, as you say. A derby against Everton. We had played a couple of years early in the League Cup final at Wembley, which was the first All Merseyside Cup final. So both sides were. We knew what was to come. The only difference was this was the FA Cup. This was the big one. Everton had been dominant 85 and a lot of 86. They won the league in 85. So they were a very, very good, very, very strong team. I think we all we knew what we had. We knew we were better than them. If we played to our strengths and played to our maximum, we always felt we would beat Everton. We were terrible coming a goal down, and Kenny only said, "You cannot play that bad again." He said, "So just go back out and pick yourselves up and go on and win it." And we took over in the end.
Yeah, dominated the second half. I've watched some of it this morning as well, and certainly did. You mentioned a whole lot of teams there of players you've played with. For you, which was the best team you played with in your Liverpool days? Because it's you've reeled off some names, and they're all absolutely legends, and you've played in some absolute fantastic teams. What was your best team you think you played in?
It's a toss-up between the early 80s one and the late 80s. The early 80s was a very, very difficult team to beat. That's why we won the European Cup in 84 and they won it in 81. Very, very difficult team to beat. They had some strength all round and experience with Suey. And you had Phil Neal, Alan Kennedy, Graham Souness, Alan Hansen, all these experienced players got you through. Kenny, these got the younger players through the games. But as we went into the late 80s, and then we had a nucleus of what we had still back then. It was like Hansen, myself, Rushy, Steve Nicol, Craig Johnson going later on. And then Barnes and Beardsley and Houghton and Aldridge were added to this squad. That was full of flair, but I would have backed the early 80s team to beat the late 80s team because of the mainly the players. If you look at it, probably three of the best players that ever played for Liverpool in that position. Hansen centre-back, Dalglish centre-forward, Souness centre-midfield. He had a great spine in the team. So a very, very difficult team. I'd go for that team to beat the late 80s.
Absolutely. Obviously from this you played for Ireland. 53 caps for the Irish team, 2 World Cups. As well in there. What's obviously. Was it your pinnacle to play in a World Cup? I would imagine it would be. A lot of players would say that. And I've got to ask you, we're going to ask you about the Roy Keane situation as well in '94 as well. But, what's your recollection of the World Cups? Was it your pinnacle in that sense? Or was it club football is more important than what the international scene was?
See, it wasn't because I'd won leagues, League Cups, European Cups with Liverpool. It was the next step up. You wanted to play in a major tournament. You never felt you were ever going to get there with Ireland, especially in the early 80s. We were getting very, very close, but didn't get through it all. But then Jack came along, Jack Charlton, and it was basically, he had a lot of very, very good players, but you're wanting to play football. But Jack's was, no, we're not playing football. We're going to kick it in the corners, behind the full-backs. We're going to chase them down the pitch, put them under pressure. That was his main saying, put them under pressure. And we put them under pressure high up the pitch. We got the ball back up there, and then we were able to play up there. And I got amazing success. We got to 88 European Cups, and then 90 and 94, 2 World Cups, which you never felt Ireland were ever going to do. But it was a great era that Jack had and the players had. But again, good players make good teams.
No, absolutely. And we've got to ask you about the Roy Keane situation. Obviously, you're in the squad there. You're coming to. Really, you're at Southend.
Actually, that was later on. That was Saipan. I'd gone by then. I wasn't in that squad.
Oh, he's not in that one. All right, okay.
I wasn't in that squad. The whole thing, I think, was completely handled wrong. Yeah. There was ways. There had to be ways to get round Roy Keane leaving the Ireland squad. Roy was not happy. And we'd gone through this for years with Ireland, where everything we did usually was substandard. We'd be on the back of the plane. The directors would be up the front of the plane with their wives. So we were always pushed back as players. Now, Roy didn't want, after being at Man United for so long, he realised that the players should be the ones that get the most. They get the best hotels, they have the best training pitches, they have the best balls, they have everything ready. Roy claims that inside Pan they didn't. The pitches were bad, they didn't have things weren't coming through. Eventually you hear that, yes, that they hadn't come through because they were lost in transit and things like this. But the training pitches weren't right, and Roy eventually said, this is not for me. I can't do this. I'm sure I just can't believe that was able to go that far. I don't know who they should get in or who they shouldn't. Whether it was the players who weren't too bothered about Roy not being in the squad. I don't know how they can, because you've got your best player that's going to leave your team. You're going to be a lot more vulnerable without your best players. But they played very, very well once Roy left. But I thought it was a shame that Roy had to get to the stage where he wanted to walk away from it.
No, absolutely. And talk about Big Jack as well. You must have what's your fondest memory of Jack? What's your best story about Jack? Because I know there's thousands out there about Jack Charlton.
There are a million. But one of the early ones was when he called Ian Brady, which he was off the wall, Jack. He'd go and watch teams. He was telling us how this Brazilian team or something played once, and he pulled out a matchbox and he had it all written down, all his notes on the back of the matchbox. That was his notes for that game we were going to play Brazil. He didn't really care about how good the opposition were. He always felt that his tactics were going to outdo the best players in the world, and we had some great results. We beat Brazil. I remember being with Alan Ball after the game. Jack let Alan Ball get on the bus to go back to the hotel after the game in Lansdowne. And I was sitting next to Alan Ball. And he said, you just beat Brazil team you've ever seen. And he said to me, it always stuck with me, he said to me, yeah, but doesn't matter what sort of Brazil team it was, not many teams beat Brazil. You don't beat Brazil. But we beat them at Lansdowne. Lynn Brady scored a goal. So that was a big highlight, actually. It wasn't anything major. But to beat Brazil was a big scalp.
No, absolutely. Hurd, I know you normally do a quiz. I'm just conscious of time and things, that's all. So, Hurd, I'm going to come across to you for the quiz.
Yeah. I'll zip through the quiz, but there's a great... Tell this story. I've heard you tell it before, Ron, about Ray Houghton on the plane. It's a brilliant story when he were pissed on the way home.
Ray,
when he beat us in 88.
We were really drunk after 88. We'd done the tour of the city, and there was a lot of drink had. And we told the wives we had to stay in Dublin for a dinner. And the three wives just said, no, get yourselves on the plane. Three of us got on the plane, absolutely, really, really drunk. Ray was by the window. John Aldridge was in the middle, and I was on the outside. The plane had only took off and had gone probably 2 minutes into the air. And Ray got himself out of his seatbelt, and he said, I want to go to the toilet. And I said, you can't go to the toilet. We're only took off. He said, you can't go anywhere. He eventually climbed over the top of me and Aldo, and the toiletry would have had to go out and turn left to go to the toilet. So Ray went, and he went to turn left to go to the toilet, but then stopped and looked around at the back of the plane, right down the plane, and he stood there singing, who put the ball in the England net? I did. We were drunk, Cody.
The one thing I know that you don't often touch on before I start on this, I mean, one of them days, a bit like we spoke about the Bradford Fire in Hillsborough. And I don't know if you were captain that day, mate. Were you captain that day? I know you were.
I was captain of Hillsborough, yeah. I was Alan Hansen was injured early on in the season. Yeah. And then I was given the captaincy by Kenny at the start of the season. Jockey come back in later on, but Kenny said, leave the captaincy with him. Yeah, I was captain that day at Hillsborough.
I remember, I mean, I was a young lad at the time. I remember watching it, and I think the players, my first thought was there's violence, you know what I mean? I just thought that, off, you know
that's
what I mean?
We thought.
Yeah, and it happened so quick. I mean, was it 5 or 6 minutes into the game when it all, when the referee says we need to get off the pitch?
Peter Beardsley hit the post or the crossbar very early on, 5th minute, 6th minute, whatever it was, and there was people at the back heard the big cheer go up, didn't know what was happening, and the people started to push forward. The referee come to me as the captain, as you said that day, and said, take the players off the pitch because there's something happening behind the goal. There was people coming over the fence and things like that. So we went back in the dressing room, not thinking there was a little bit of violence in that end. The Forest fans, or somehow there was fans involved. Yeah. And then the door was ajar, and some lad was getting either carried or brought back past the dressing room, and he seen the players in the dressing room, and he shouted, he screamed. Actually, there's people dying in there. So then you start to think there's something really, really wrong. Unfortunately, there was.
Yeah, there was a. I know one touched you, and I've been with you a few times. We've had a few drinks, and there was a kid named after you sadly passed away. That must have been.
There was a lad from Warrington. His middle name was Ronnie. His surname was Whelan, but he was nicknamed Ronnie. So there was a lot of sad stories on that day.
No. I know we spoke about the Bradford Fire. I know John Elm, but John Elm was on yesterday. He was commentating, and I remember that just. It's days, and it's certain days in your life, Hillsborough, Bradford, Princess Diana, just stuff what sticks in your mind, and just wanted to say it must have been tough, and I've been lucky enough to go to Anfield and the memorial they have and all the things you do over there. It's amazing, really. But good for you. Right, I've got a little quiz for you, mate, on a bit about your past, a bit about Southport, a bit about Liverpool. So first question is, what golf course do you think is the oldest in and around Southport? I'm going to give you 4 options. You've got Escath, Birkdale, S&A, or Formby Golf Club. Not the Hall, of course, because that's very new, but Formby Golf Club. What would you guess is the earliest founded golf club?
I will go... Oh, God, I don't know about Escath. I'll go S&A.
S&A is the oldest at 1906. The oldest is 1884, Formby Golf Club. Birkdale was 1889, Hesketh 1885. Anyway, a bit of history for you there, so next time SNA is the oldest. Right, next question. Name 3 players that have played for Liverpool and Leeds. And there's 19 players, so get your obvious ones out.
Fowler, Rush. Fowler and Rush.
Yeah. There's an Irishman. Go on, I'll give you a clue. One Irishman.
One Irishman for play.
I think that's quite hard on that one, but
there's plenty. There's one. I'll give you a clue. Another one. There's a current player playing for Liverpool now.
Who?
Current player playing for Liverpool now. Current, yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's not that. Harry Kewell. So he was another one. But
Harry
the one now.
Harry Kewell's one. Harry Kewell. Yeah, there's one now. Current. You've got 3 anyway, but Clark, who is it?
It's an easy one, that. Milner.
Who's it?
James Milner.
Oh, James Milner. Yeah. I thought he'd already come to Leeds.
No. To Liverpool, all these. Yeah, exactly. You've got Dominic Matteo, Scott Carson, Jermaine Pennant, Gary McAllister, Nicky Barmby, and another player, but I won't mention him because he's in one of my questions. Right, what Irish golf club held the Ryder Cup in 2006?
K Club.
Correct.
No.
And right. Yeah, correct. K Club. And this isn't part of your question, but
best weekend of my life that was. Just thought.
Was it? Go on.
I got invited into a house on the 15th fairway, and it was food and drink all day. Just jump over a little fence, watch them come down, go back to the 15th tee, go to the green, watch Tiger, Monty, and it was tremendous.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Which this isn't a question, but do you know which in 2026 you've got the Ryder Cup again? Where's it being held? In Ireland. I know you.
Is it Adair?
Adair it is. Yes. Adair, yeah. Right. Okay. You got 53 caps for Ireland. Who's got the most?
Robbie Keane.
And he was the other player for Leeds United.
Oh yeah.
Beating Goffey here.
Yeah, he's doing well.
That's what we want.
What is the stadium capacity at Liverpool? 50, 52 or 53?
I thought it was 56, so I'll go 53.
Yeah, 53 is correct. I'm going to ask you actually this one, then I'll go back to the last one we asked. Leeds beat, not often we do this, big man, Leeds beat Liverpool 4-3 in the year 2000 at Ellen Road. Which player scored all 4 goals for Leeds? Robbie Keane.
Viduka.
There you go. Go on. Come on, straight in. Right, this last question. Ron, this last question I ask everyone, and it's a very simple question. We had the Olympics in 2012, Super Saturday. Which 3 athletes got gold medals that afternoon in track and field? Come on, Nick, think about it.
Nah, you got me on that one. It's not my.
Oh, no.
I hated running anyway.
Don't you
Mo Farah.
There's one. Mo Farah. The face of the Olympics girl, heptathlete.
Ennis. Jessica
Yes.
Ennis.
Yeah, not bad. And then a ginger triple jumper, Howard, or long jumper?
Yeah,
Clark.
triple jump.
Clark.
Triple.
Was it like Roberts or?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I'm going to give you that. Greg Rutherford.
Oh, Rutherford.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I should guess that.
By the way, in that 19, I've got a good memory for it. Ronnie scored a great goal. Was it at Ellen Road or at Liverpool when you beat Lukic?
That was
Leeds. Was that Ellen Road? I'm going to say because I didn't see many fans jumping up and down. I thought it must have been Ellen Road. He was a great little, one of your little top wingers that were like your driver.
Little right foot curler.
Yeah, little right winger that was. Yeah, well done, mate. I think you're up with Goffey there. Well done, mate.
That's what we like. We always like. Goffey keeps telling us that he's at top of the league. Now we can say he's not. So that's a good thing.
Can I ask Howard a quick question? I mean, I 81. You won't believe it. I'm 45 tomorrow. But Clarky, you remember the Leeds great 60s and 70s? What do you remember about the 80s? In the 80s with Liverpool, Howard?
The 80s was my busy time, my good time on the golf course. I remember more 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Anfield only 2 or 3 times, but the first time I went to Anfield, Leeds had to draw or get a point to win the league. And I was just astounded with it. They actually ended up drawing 0-0. And they've been rewarded the championship as it was at that time, the Premier League as it is today. And what an ovation. Nobody moved. Nobody moved in the ground. The Kop stayed. Everyone stayed. The Leeds fans were at the other end. They all stayed. And, of course, it was mixed seating in those days. It wasn't so segregated as it is now. We were sitting amongst Liverpool fans. And I'm not kidding. After the game, they cried out for Leeds to come back out. They started singing champions, champions or something like that. And the team came and did a lap of honour and were applauded all the way around. That was just the best I've ever seen in my life. And it's probably as memorable as being at the Cup final in '65 when we got beat by Liverpool. But, I've had some good times going to Liverpool, but I can never figure out where those kids come from and where they go to that ask for a fiver to look after your car.
That's the scout. Oh, brilliant. Go on, AJ.
Well, there are some great teams you remember, aren't there?
Yeah.
Liverpool team in the 80s. You go back to one of the greatest teams ever was that Leeds team.
Yeah.
What a team that was.
The teams I remember started with Harvey or Gary Sprake. And it used to go Ronnie, Cooper, or Rooney and Bell, and then Bremner, Charlton, Hunter, and then there was Lorimer, Clark, Jones, Giles, and Gray. And Madeley would play any position. In fact, he did play all 10 positions in outfield play. He was probably the most useful, versatile player I've ever seen play for Leeds. There were a few additions to those, some fantastic players that came in, but that was the basis of the team that Leeds had in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Lenny, what about Wigan?
Yeah, they up in 2013, didn't we?
Exactly. Can't knock you there. Go on, AJ. Sorry, mate.
No, it's fine. It's typical. This. Apologies, Ronnie. You come onto the show. You mentioned Dalglish, Hansen, Paisley, amazing players. Then we just have to reminisce for 5 minutes about Leeds. I mean, come on. Dirty. Ronnie, just a couple of questions coming in on social media. Alex asks, and I know you brought this up, or you touched around the subject earlier, were you ever approached to be part of the boot room at Liverpool, and why did you quit management so early?
Because main reason was because I hated it, to be fair. Never tipped to be part of the boot room. Actually, that was the worst part of my career, was leaving Liverpool, because they said I could have a 1-year contract, and I felt I deserved 2, so I was holding out for a 2-year contract. Then I just changed my mind. I said to Roy Evans, who was then the manager, I said, Roy, I will accept the year contract. And that was a Thursday. I come in for training Friday morning. I said, how'd it go? And he said, they've withdrawn the contract. You're free to go. I was just about to start training, so I just had to get in the car and drive home. So that was the real disappointing part of being at Liverpool. Only was that how they let me go. So obviously I was not destined for the back room.
That's fair enough. Boom Boom asks.
Boom Boom.
Is it
Boom Boom? He says, ask Ronnie about the time that Jack Charlton brought his team to Harry Ramsden's in Limerick.
I think that was the end of a lot of us, and the end of Jack as well. We were playing Austria on the Tuesday. He brought us down to Limerick because he was going away. We had a few days till it was like a game on a Saturday and a game on a Wednesday. So Jack went away to look at a game, left his son John and Morissette as the assistant in charge, and we were told not to go out, which was the silliest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And Limerick, there's plenty of bars in Limerick, so we found a lot of bars in Limerick, and then we were coming back up to Dublin on the Tuesday, and I think Jack had some interest in the franchise in Harry Ramsden's, so he brought us all in. We had a game on the Wednesday, and he brought us all into Harry Ramsden's, where about 4 or 5 of the players tried the Harry Ramsden's challenge, and we got beat by Austria 3-1 the next day. So that was the end of us all. And I wonder if that's Boom Boom Brennan from Ireland.
That's boom boom beer. John says one more could have been done to continue Liverpool's success that it had so brilliantly in the 80s as a club went into the 90s.
You needed better players. It was okay when Suey come in. The squad wasn't bad, but Suey come in like I'm going to do my own thing here.
Yeah.
People said he knocked down the boot room and things like that. He didn't. There was times were changing. Premiership was coming in. Needed more room under the stand and things like that for press. That wasn't what Suey did. But when you talk about getting better players in, he let some players go. He let Steve Staunton go at 23, 24, who went on to have a great career. Beardsley left, went on to do great things at Newcastle. These sort of things, that didn't help. But bringing the players in that were going to be as good as these didn't happen. And then that went right through after Suey, Evo, Benitez, Houllier. We never, ever brought players good enough to win a Premier Championship. Yes, they could win a cup now and again, FA Cup, a League Cup now and again, but not to get what I always felt was the holy grail was to win the league. And they didn't have players good enough that they brought in.
And how good, just following on from that one, AJ, just one sec, Ronnie, how good is this team Liverpool have now?
Yeah, it's one of the best I've seen. It's one that you want to go and watch. A bit like that team Howard mentioned in the 60s. I would have loved to see that team live. I've seen them on television a few times, but that team with Giles and Bremner was magnificent. You've got great teams like your Arsenals, the Invincibles, your Man United, your Chelseas. But this Liverpool now, they have to win more trophies to be classed as one of the greatest Liverpool teams. You go through the 80s, what we won then. If they can replicate that, they've been in a European final, they've won a European Cup, and they're winning the league this year would have been magnificent, but for all that's going on. I hope they do play the games and give it to them like they deserve, 25 points clear. But it is one of the best teams I've ever seen, Liverpool. The way they play football, the movement, the closing down, the energy, it's great to go and watch them.
Do you go watch, Ronnie? Do you still go down there?
I work for Liverpool TV, so I see plenty of games. But I'd rather be on the golf course on a Saturday than watching football.
What's happened since lockdown? How's the swing, big man?
I tell you what, honestly, the only thing I wish now is that lockdown was still here. I cannot hit a ball. I am absolutely atrocious. I can't do one thing right.
Brilliant.
I'm going to ask you, Ronnie, and we ask every guest this, so it always gets posted somewhere in the social media stuff. Out of your brilliant career that you had, what's the best piece of memorabilia that you've either collected from a game, whether it be kit swaps or trophies, or what's your best bit of memorabilia that you're just so proud of and you've normally got hung on your bedroom wall or living room window or living room wall or wherever?
I wouldn't say it's on my bedroom wall, but it's in a little cabinet somewhere. My European Cup winners' medal. There's not many lads to come out of Dublin that can just go on and win a European Cup. And I was fortunate enough. When you go through winning the leagues and the League Cups, I want to win a European Cup. And fortunately, I did it in '84. And unfortunately, after '85, I never played in Europe again. We were banned after '85 and never got back into Europe. They did, but I wasn't in the team. But that European Cup's got pride in place, or the European Cup medal.
Yeah. Where is it, Ronnie? Whereabouts is it?
I'd love to tell you.
I know where you live.
I wasn't suggesting that, just for the viewers, just to show them it, but no, that's fine.
Is that all? Any more, AJ?
There's loads, and obviously played an amazing era of English football, but I know times are always our enemy at these shows. But yeah, thanks, Ronnie. There's some brilliant answers there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So yesterday we had the Ryder Cup with Clarkey. Today we've got the European Cup. It's the guest we have on here is unbelievable, Ronnie. We've got two questions which we always ask everybody as well. What would be, obviously you're into your golf, what would be your ultimate 4-ball at golf?
It wouldn't be Hurdy.
No, it wouldn't be. I agree.
You have to say Tiger, don't you?
Yeah.
You'd love to play with someone like Tiger. God, who else? Shane Lowry. I'm not playing with Shane. I'm playing some tournaments with him, but he's a good lad. Who would be my third?
You'd have a big crowd, so you'd be nervous, Ronnie.
I played in the thing in Celtic Manor once. There was a celebrity thing, Celtic Manor. There was a big crowd. I was on the first tee, and I think it was in aid of Colin Montgomery's mum's or wife's charity, cancer charity. I was on the first tee, and there were a lot of people around. I was introduced onto the tee, and I thought, I feel okay here. And then I went to put my ball on the tee, and I could not stop shaking. I was shaking so much. And I just put it on the tee and hit it very, very quickly. And the first person I seen in front of me was Colin Montgomery. And I said, I don't know what happened there. I said, I just started shaking. And he said to me, that's what it's like in the Ryder Cup. And I thought, oh my God, use professionals and then you get so scared at the Ryder Cup.
It's a very funny one, though. It's funny because everybody, Clarky, you could come in on this one. It's very funny because everybody who plays football would be very nervous going out and playing in front of 50,000 at Anfield. Getting on a tee and hitting a golf ball is actually more nerve-wracking for a lot of footballers than it is for anything else. Clarky, talk Ronnie through what it's like teeing it up on the first tee at a Ryder Cup. Tell us the Sam Torrance story at the Belfry.
Okay, well, for fear of upsetting anybody, Sam Torrance and I would be a foursomes game, and we're on the putting green at the Belfry, and we had 10 minutes to go, and we're just putting out. I said, "How are you doing, Sam?" He says, "Yeah, I'm okay." So we putted along, and then they get the call to go to the tee. So we wandered down to the first tee. He said, Clarky says, I want you to take the first tee shot. I said, no. I said, that's not the plan, Sam. I said, we've already agreed that you're going to have this hole and that hole, and you like the odd numbers for the par threes. He says, yeah, not feeling too great today. He says, I just feel like you should go. And he was actually bricking going down to the first tee. He really was. Yeah, bless him. He might deny it. Like a few other things that seriously happened. And I had no problems with it at all. It's just a frightful feeling. I actually hit the opening tee shot in 1987 at Muirfield Village. And if you ever thought that the Americans could put you off in any way, that was the time, because they had the rah-rah girls, the what they call them, the ones that go with the football teams and stuff. Cheerleaders, pom-poms going. If anyone can, Dan can, and all that type of thing. And I'm looking at Sam. I said, "What's all this?" I says, "Oh, golly!" And thank goodness we couldn't see. There was fog down the first hole. We couldn't see the fairway, so it was brilliant. Couldn't hit a bad shot. Very nervous.
Fantastic. And the other question we always ask, Ronnie, is who would get you into the most trouble on a night out?
We weren't too bad, actually. We weren't. There wasn't many that was going to cause major trouble. Probably Steve Nicol. But mainly because he was just daft. He'd do something stupid. He wasn't a bad fella. He would do something that he thought was really, really funny, and other people wouldn't think it was that funny, and that would get you into trouble. So it's probably been Nicol, not in a bad way.
Have I got time to ask one more question, please?
Yeah, in you come here.
Ronnie, I know the Liverpool humour is something to behold. They're sharp as attack. Liverpool and Glasgow were two of the places that I've been to, and they've always been sharp, very quick-witted, but a jolly humour and everything. I mean, I remember very well going to Anfield. Leeds lost 2-0, and there was snow on the ground. And Gary Sprake, just before half-time, went to throw the ball out to a player and threw it in his own net. And, of course, that's the end of the game. There's absolute no confidence in the keeper. That's what the team is saying. And they played Des O'Connor at half-time over the tannoy. I mean, that just epitomises to me the Liverpool humour. How strong was that in the team? How strong was that boy? I don't know what's happening here.
AJ's messing something up. Somebody mute AJ in the background, please.
I don't know. I could still be here, can I? Because I couldn't hear how they at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just asking how good the humour of the Liverpool team, how it's going.
We're a really bad line now. I don't know what's gone on there. It's been absolutely fine all the way through. Then suddenly the last bit. I'm going to finish it there because the line is terrible on that side. Ronnie, I've got to say thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate you coming on. It's fantastic, mate. You know, great stories and absolute legend of Liverpool Football Club. You know what you've won. Absolute pleasure speaking to you, mate. Really do appreciate your hour which you've spent with us. As always, you know we'll thank our people behind Simply Video who are looking after us, and also SGH Sporting Events. You know, you can find all these interviews and chats which we have all on there, and also you can find the link for the NHS on there as well. So please go on there and donate as much as you can. Also, thank you to Tony Cuthbertson from IMP Media as well for sponsoring today. You can still, I think, you can still sponsor for tomorrow if somebody wants to come forward. We can have a few sponsors tomorrow. We've got Paul McGinley on tomorrow, so we're going to be talking definitely about the Ryder Cup and his side of things on that one. You know, we've had some great people we've had Katrina Matthews on from the Solheim Cup as well. So be interested to get the two sides there. Obviously, Clark is going to be on tomorrow with us as well. Hurd is going to be on with us tomorrow as well. And Lynn, are you in KC Communication? Lynn, are you on it tomorrow as well?
Yeah, I'll be as chatty as I've been today as well, yeah.
He loves to listen.
He loves to listen.
Did you mention your tennis against Dean Windass yesterday, Linny? Or no, you weren't on yesterday. Tell him what happened yesterday, Linny. If Dino's listening.
Yeah, we had a couple of sets up the road, didn't we? And he should have won the first set, and I managed to do him 7-5, and then won 6-0 on the second one.
It's amazing, Linny, that he's not actually put any of this on his Facebook or his Twitter or anything this morning. So, well, can we...
He tweeted yesterday morning, didn't he? And he said he tweeted to everyone that he was going to absolutely destroy me, didn't he?
Well, I think you need to do a little bit here. You know, we've got a few other things going on next week as well, which, you know, we can start little competitions going on here. You know, you know, get it out there because Dino definitely will talk about it. And if it'd beaten you, mate, you know, get it out there as much as you can.
Sporting mentality. So I'm 5-0 up and I've like 30 love up. And I said, you know and I know that I want this game more than anything. He went, you've got no chance I'll win 7-5. And I just started laughing. I said, that's exactly how I've been thinking as well.
Brilliant. As always, boys, you know, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow at 12. Sounds like Clarky's dog needs a walk, so he's going to go off and do that. We're going to have a bit of a chat after just to sort ourselves out. And thank you again, as always, for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes.
Tell us when we're not live, boys. Tell us when we're not live. Thanks. Cheers, boys.
Holly's famous again.
Yeah, Holly's famous. Yes, she does it always.
Doesn't she?